Listen, here's the important point about this, okay? An Article 5 convention is only allowed to propose amendments. The safeguard that the founders had the divine wisdom to put into the Constitution is that the ratification process is the safeguard. So let's say this hypothetical was true, which it is not, and there are libraries of information that have been written on this, libraries of constitutional scholarship that debunks some of the myths that are being presented here. But let's just assume for the sake of argument that Representative Carter was right, and that it was a runaway, they came up with some crazy idea, they wanted to reinstitute slavery or something. You have to get 38 states to ratify that. It ain't never going to happen, right? You have this process where you have to have the majority of the convention delegates to propose it. They have no authority to ratify their own proposals. It goes through the process like every other constitutional amendment has. The reason we only have this limited number of amendments, you know, there are hundreds of constitutional amendments that have been proposed in the last 239 years, hundreds of them. We only have a small handful that are in the document. You know why? Because the ratification process is the safeguard against that kind of madness. That is not a legitimate threat. We've debated this a long time. There's a lot more that can and should be said, but we don't have the ability to do it today. If you vote for this amendment, you are killing the bill and you are taking Louisiana out of this process. It's an important one. I have come to this conclusion myself after lots of study, prayer, and deliberation. This is what I do. I'm a constitutional lawyer. I was reluctant in the beginning, but I have come to the conclusion myself, for me, that the overreach of the federal government is so out of control, and it is exactly what the founders anticipated in the Federalist Papers, what they were concerned would happen, that this is the measure of last resort. And my friends, to me, we are at the last resort. And so that's why I support it. I oppose the amendment, and vote your conscience. I think all of us recognize, regardless of party, regardless of political ideology, I think one thing most of us in this room could agree on is that the government has grown too large. At least on a federal level, let's agree, the government is doing too much. I will tell you, it's doing way more than the founders intended or designed it to do. And so they had the wisdom to put a safeguard in the Constitution. I mean, I believe the Constitution was divinely inspired. There's no way they could have had the wisdom to anticipate all these things that would happen. And they put this safeguard in there. They said, look, we want the power to be reserved to the people. Lincoln said, government of the people, by the people, for the people. The only way to ensure that is to have the safeguard in the Constitution that the states get the final say. And the way that they designed it, the way that the states have the final say, when this thing grows too large and it's doing too much and it's out of control, it's the people's voice. It's us as the representatives of the people in here today that get to make that affirmative vote to say, we agree it's too big, we know there's no other way to limit it, and we're willing to go to this great length to make that happen. This is our chance. As I said, I came to this conclusion myself reluctantly, but I'm there. I think we have to do it. If you don't like the current candidates, the leading candidates for President of the United States, whichever side of the aisle in here that you're on, there is great fear and concern, I think that's legitimate, regardless of who the next commander-in-chief is, that they will continue to grow this thing, that they're not going to limit government on the federal level. They're going to continue to usurp our authority. And I mean not just the state's authority. I'm talking about the people. We the people. This is the safeguard. I am convinced that we should take this step, and I hope you'll join me in it. Thank you.
62 yeas and 36 nays, and the resolution's been adopted.